Aaron.
Yeah.
Why didn't you say it the first time I said Aaron?
Because it's pronounced Aaron?
You done messed up, Aaron!
Aaron is back. Welcome back, everyone, for more SPTV, where every day is a great day not to be in a cult. Okay, guys, I'm going to be responding to a video that was published yesterday by a channel called, I'll show it to you. I think it's the gentleman's name. Asa Park is how I'm going to say it. I want to start by saying this channel is actually amazing. The production value of the videos on this channel are phenomenal. The editing is amazing. In general, the research seems to be amazing. Except when it comes to the subject of Scientology, even the best research can leave you coming up short. Now, the video that we're responding to today is one called Linkin Park is about to expose Scientology. You can see it. I got 120,000 views almost in just a day. This channel, I mean, the quality of the videos in this channel are amazing. Last month, he had a video that got 1 million views. I don't know how this channel only has 40,000 views. It's an absolute crime. But when it comes to this Linkin Park is about to expose Scientology video, we're going to be reacting to it. We're not going to go through the entire video. I've been through it. I've got my timestamps all set up here. The entire premise of the video is predicated on the idea that Emily Armstrong is secretly out of Scientology and just can't speak about it because of Scientology's destructive disconnection policies that destroys families. Also, its retaliation policies, generally known as fair game in Scientology, of destroying people that speak out publicly against Scientology. The fact that Scientology has these policies is, of course, true and accurate. The fact that this has anything to do with Emily Armstrong is unfortunately untrue. Emily Armstrong is 100% an currently active Scientologist. I've covered this on my channel, but it doesn't matter. The nature of YouTube, I could do 100 videos about it and almost nobody, relatively speaking, is going to have seen that video. My information about Emily Armstrong being a currently active Scientologist comes directly from the Scientology auditor who is currently auditing her. And that is an auditor, a female auditor, a woman by the name of Chris Armstrong. No, Emily Armstrong, Chris Farmer. Chris Farmer is the auditor. She's auditing Emily Armstrong. Chris Farmer is one of the most well-known and long-term successful Scientology field auditors. A field auditor in Scientology is a public Scientologist. They're not a staff member. They're not a CERC member. They're a public Scientologist who's a trained auditor and audits people in the real world outside of a Scientology org or a Scientology mission. There are not very many successful field auditors in the world. The word field in Scientology means the area around an organization. So a field auditor is sort of the opposite of a staff auditor. A staff auditor is an auditor who is a staff member at a Scientology org, works for Scientology, and audits people who pay Scientology money. A field auditor is someone who's auditing in the field, and they make money. They are the ones who personally get paid for the auditing. Now, in Scientology, you're not allowed to directly compete with the Scientology organization. So one of the rules of being a field auditor is you actually have to charge more money for the auditing than an organization would charge for the auditing. Now, realize the difference here is that if you work for a Scientology organization and your job is auditor, you might audit 40 hours that week. The auditing that you delivered might have been worth $20,000 that week. You're still only getting paid a couple $100 that week. Your pay is a function of being a staff member. You're not being directly paid for delivering auditing. A field auditor is being directly paid. They personally make all of that money, and they pay a small percentage in basically royalty fees on that income to the mother church of Scientology. Emily Armstrong is currently being audited by Chris Farmer. My information about that comes directly from Chris Farmer, even though Chris Farmer doesn't know how I'm getting that information. Okay. It is a fact. Now, I know the people in the comments section go, oh, so your evidence is trust me, bro. Yeah, my evidence is trust me, bro. That's the purpose of this channel. Scientology is a very small world. There's only like 25,000 Scientologists, 30,000 Scientologists in the entire world. Okay. The ex-Scientology community is even smaller than that. Okay. So all Scientologists in the world are separated by like every Scientologist in the world has at least one mutual contact in common. It's a very small world. I can't actually reveal the true source of my information without exposing that source and putting them at risk, because they are still in Scientology and are what we call under the radar. They're still technically in good standing. They still exist in the Scientology ecosystem, the Scientology bubble. They're not ready to have their life totally blown up yet. But like, that's sort of the purpose of my channel, is to put out information about Scientology that only an insider would have. And I simply don't put out false information on this channel. There's no point in doing that. The closest I ever came to accidentally doing that was a video I did about the Freewinds ship, the Scientology ship, saying it was in dry dock and it was never going to sail again. That was a thinly sourced video that I put out specifically with the purpose of trying to smoke out additional information. And as soon as I had enough evidence showing that that was untrue, I corrected the record in a video the very next day or 2 days later. I do not gain anything by putting out false information about Scientology or Scientologists. Okay. So again, I'm being a little long-winded about this, but the entire premise of this video is that Emily Armstrong's not really a Scientologist. And if that's what you think, you can look at the body of evidence and figure out how the evidence tells you that. But if you know it's not true, then the evidence tells a different story. Okay, so let's see. I've got a whole bunch of notes. I got a whole bunch of timestamps. We are going to go through different portions of this video. Let me see. Is there anything else I need to do to set this up? I don't think so. Okay, so the video starts out by explaining how almost no band ever survives the death of its lead singer, and that Linkin Park has basically accomplished the impossible last year by bringing on Emily Armstrong and reviving the band. And let's see. Let's look at this clip. Here we go.
6 months ago, Linkin Park did the impossible. But to be honest, that's not what's interesting here. What's really interesting is that Emily Armstrong sparked some controversy because of her strong ties to Scientology.
You've probably heard of Scientology.
A religious cult that is known for its mental abuse tactics, countless criminal accusations, and even human trafficking.
But what goes on behind the walls of this religion isn't always glamorous.
Despite growing concerns from longtime Linkin Park fans, Emily has stayed completely silent. Why? Is Emily silent because she's on board with Scientology? Or is she being silenced by the leaders of this cult?
When you have a critic before you, you destroy those people.
And I think I found something that completely changed the way I look at the situation.
There was a moment where I was just like panicking a little bit, just being like, oh my God, oh my God.
To be honest, things get quite weird and really, really interesting. Let me tell you a story.
I cannot help but just comment again on how much I actually like this video. I like this creator. I like this presenter. I like this channel. I understand thousands and thousands and thousands of Linkin Park fans have convinced themselves that based on the lyrics of the songs of Emily's earlier band, Dead Sara, based on the lyrics of some of the songs she's written for Linkin Park, that the lyrics themselves indicate she couldn't possibly be in Scientology. Also, the fact that Emily is openly gay. Okay, many of the fans have been like, oh, don't you know anything about Scientology? You can't be gay and be a Scientologist. Listen to me. That is false. You can be gay and be a Scientologist. There are tons of examples, and I'm going to give some as we progress in this video. What you cannot do is progress to the higher levels of Scientology's bridge while still being someone who a Scientology would say is practicing being gay, like living as a gay person, doing gay things, being gay. Guys, one of Scientology's biggest celebrities, Catherine Bell, lives as an openly gay woman with her girlfriend of, 15 years now, who's also a second generation born in Scientologist in good standing, Brooke Daniels. What's her maiden name? She married Ken Daniels. So basically, Brooke Daniels and Catherine Bell were both married to men. They divorced their husbands and got together. That was a long time ago. They've been together ever since. Brooke Jones was her maiden name. Then she married Ken Daniels, and she continues to use the name Brooke Daniels, even though they're no longer together. Emily being gay is not evidence that she's not in Scientology and doesn't support Scientology. Okay, so let's jump forward now to 243. And let's see, do I have to set this up? Okay, so yeah, they're talking about prior to this clip, he's saying that, you know, Chester Bennington was basically the voice of a generation for angsty teens. Him being open about speaking about his mental health issues is part of what defined him and the band and is what the audience connected with. And let's see. And then he says, and then in late 2024, oh, and that's why he was irreplaceable. That it just wasn't possible to replace Chester. When Chester died, the band broke up and stopped touring or whatever the right description would be. Okay, so here's the next clip.
Emily Armstrong was pretty unknown to most people before she joined Linkin Park. If you were into the hard rock scene back then, maybe you'd know her as the frontwoman of Dead Sara. But beyond that, she flew under most people's radar.
Good. I just want to quickly, before I forget to mention this, Dead Sara is a band composed completely of Scientologists. Scientologists in good standing. It's not ex-Scientologists. It's not disgruntled Scientologists. It's not kids of Scientologists. Dead Sara is a band composed of Scientologists. Chris Wadhams, Danny Masterson's best friend. The guy who donated a kidney to Danny's wife, Bijou. Chris Wadhams, the guy who showed up to court every single day to support Danny Masterson. Chris Wadhams is the bassist or the guitarist for Dead Sara. It's all Scientologists. People trying to go through the lyrics of the songs of a band of Scientologists to prove that these people aren't Scientologists. It's understandable if you don't know these people in real life. It doesn't matter what the lyrics of the songs of Dead Sara are. They're all active Scientologists. All right, let's keep going.
When she sings, do you feel like it's just like pouring out of her soul? Like
Mike Shinoda felt he had finally found someone who could fill Chester's shoes. But the fans, they didn't agree with that. In fact, the fans were extremely disappointed. And the apprehension wasn't just from the fans, it even came from Chester's family.
It's not that Emily's a bad vocalist, it's that she apparently has the past that she has, and she has not, in my opinion, given an appropriate response.
In an interview with Rolling Stone, Chester's mother made a bold statement. And the reason behind the hatred was her past. Why?
Breaking news now, an actor in Hollywood convicted of...
A jury has found Danny Masterson guilty of 2 counts of...
In 2022, Emily Armstrong attended a formal gathering for now convicted felon and disgraced TV star Danny Masterson. His crimes were too dark to even mention here, and the fact that the new singer of Linkin Park was a supporter of his didn't sit right with the fans. But Emily did give an answer. Several years ago, I was asked to support someone I considered a friend and went to one early hearing as an observer. Soon after, I realized I shouldn't have. I misjudged him. I've never spoken with him since. She clarified her position and acknowledged her mistakes. And people make mistakes, right? I guess problem solved. Not even close. In her apology, she said that she was asked to support Danny Masterson. Asked by who?
Danny Masterson was raised in the Church of Scientology.
And it didn't take long for fans to connect the dots. Both Emily and Danny were members of Scientology.
Okay. Originally, I was going to play this part, but then I realized there's a... they tell a little bit about Scientology, but then they get to what really is important and why Scientology was a subject of concern for the fans. And it was Scientology's hatred of psychiatry and mental health in general. By the way, it was not any Scientology officials that asked Emily Armstrong or any of Danny Masterson's other friends to show up to the preliminary hearing and support Danny. It was just Danny Masterson himself. Emily Armstrong's statement that, I was asked to support someone, I showed up once, I realized it was a mistake, I misjudged my friends, is pure PR bullshit. Okay. Emily Masterson. I'm sorry, Emily Armstrong. I'm mixing up all the last names. Any truth to the statement that Emily realized it was a mistake was just that it was a PR mistake to show up to court to support a guy accused of rape. She's like, I misjudged him. What are you talking about? This guy raped like at least 8 people in multiple states, in multiple countries, in multiple decades. He was one of your best friends. You've continued to support his family, his wife, Bijou. They might be officially divorced now. But you realize Bijou isn't just a victim in all this. Danny's wife, now ex-wife, Bijou Phillips, is not just a victim in all this, not just an innocent bystander. She's an enabler. She's an abuser. She's one of the bad guys. Emily Armstrong is still friends with Bijou and the entire Masterson family. Okay. She's still posting photos on Instagram of all of them hanging out and having a blast. So if anything, Emily realized it was a PR disaster. But to say, oh, I misjudged him. You misjudged him. Like that's insane. Like it's just a PR statement. Okay, we're going to jump forward to 747. And again, you have to understand, I mean, I'm just going to probably repeat this a few times, is like, if you think Emily Armstrong is an ex-Scientologist or is somehow a victim of Scientology, I understand how all of the facts, all of the information can be interpreted in a particular way. And people go, oh, you think I'm being too hard on her. I just have an axe to grind. I don't have an axe to grind. When you know she's still a supporter of Scientology, when you know she's not just a reluctant child victim of Scientology who has no choice but to keep her mouth shut, when you know these things aren't true, when you know she's literally paying extra money to be audited by a Scientology field auditor for privacy, for convenience, then all of the information points a different direction. And that's actually why I thought it was very important to put out this video, because it is wrong to forward a narrative that Emily is just an unfortunate victim of Scientology. She was a child victim of Scientology. She's not anymore. She's an active Scientologist contributing to and enabling the entire organization. And that's why I'm doing this video. It is not my goal to cancel Emily Armstrong. It is not my goal to get her fired from Linkin Park. The truth is, the greatest thing in the world would be if Emily Armstrong did leave Scientology. That would be the greatest thing in the world. She has a platform. She has a voice. She's very famous now. And it's not my goal to force Emily Armstrong out of Scientology. It's really just my goal to put the correct information out there into the public so that people know the truth of what is actually happening and what Emily represents and what she supports. And people can do with that what they want to do. Okay, so 747, here we go.
Scientology is a crazy rabbit hole that we don't need to get into here. But there's one thing that's important for the story. Scientology is against psychotherapy.
Before I was a Scientologist, I never agreed with psychiatry. And then when I started studying the history of psychiatry, I started realizing more and more why I didn't agree with psychiatry.
And I think this is what concerned Linkin Park fans the most.
Psychotherapy, psychology, those people would tell you, this is your problem. That's a pretty arrogant position to take. Scientology, we show you a way to find out for yourself.
This so-called church actively denies psychology as a legitimate field of medicine, branding it as a tool to control and disempower individuals. And unfortunately, Emily Armstrong's ties to Scientology are undeniable. This is her at the Scientology Celebrity Gala back in 2013.
By the way, that's not just her at the Celebrity Senate Gala. That is her with Cedric Bixler Zavala, whose wife, Chrissy, was one of Danny Masterson's rape victims. Do you see?
And this at the Scientology youth camp. And then you have Linkin Park, the band whose music gave a generation of troubled kids a voice, whose entire legacy was built on destigmatizing mental health. Now, linked to a figure representing an organization that's against everything the band has ever stood for.
I just want to pause it right there. He actually is about to use a clip of my my interview. What he just stated in this video is why I'm sitting down to do this video. He is acknowledging the fact that Scientology's horrific views on mental health and their horrific views about how destructive it is to seek any type of mental health therapy outside of Scientology, and Emily Armstrong's undeniable ties to Scientology is what the Linkin Park fans were most worried about. And since the entire subject of this video that we're responding to is to basically say, it's okay, guys, Emily's actually secretly out of Scientology. Do you see how you're kind of doing a disservice to the Linkin Park fans by telling them their very legitimate concerns are unfounded, when the truth is their concerns are very much founded? Okay, here we go. Going to go backwards.
And then they
An organization that's against everything the band has ever stood for.
And then they come in the DMs, and like I made it public. I was even threatened by somebody claiming to be with Scientology.
You see, there are some evidence suggesting that Emily rejects Scientology. And while there will never be another Chester, it seems like Emily is carrying loads of childhood pain too. But if she want to talk about it, she needs to be very, very careful.
Good. I want to tie this or comment on this, because it is true that Emily is carrying a ton of childhood trauma. That's just a fact. And that's why it will always be valid to be like, isn't she also a child victim of Scientology? Well, yeah, she is. But so is literally every Scientologist who was born and raised in Scientology. And so what do we do with that information? If you're born and raised in Scientology and you're a child victim of Scientology, as was I, and you grow up and you become an adult worker for the organization, or a staff member, or a Sea Org member, or a public who's paying them hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, are we all supposed to ignore that a person is a Scientologist and what that means just because they were born in it? It is true that people who were born into Scientology did not make an active decision to join the organization. That is true. That is true for all of us for who that is true. And yet I would just want to point out that there are also tons of people for whom that is true, who are what I described earlier as being under the radar. They were a Scientologist. Scientology might even consider they are Scientologists, but they have quietly removed their support, stopped participating. Are they speaking up publicly? No. Are they declared suppressive persons? No. Are they allowed to talk to Scientologists? Yes. Are they supporting the organization and giving it money? No. So that's all I'm saying. I'm trying not to deny the truth of what he said. Emily is carrying around a lot of childhood trauma, but she's also dealing with it by using Scientology's auditing practices, and she's paying top dollar for it. All right, let's keep going.
Pain too. But if she want to talk about it, she needs to be very, very careful.
Please welcome Ms. Gail Armstrong.
This is Emily's mother. Emily's mother is someone who has at various times been very high-level Scientology executive.
Emily Armstrong never made a willing, conscious decision to become a member of Scientology. She was born into this cult.
Thank you very much. Our global IS campaigns are designed to rescue populations.
Emily's mom, Gail Armstrong, worked directly for David Miscavige in Scientology's elite group, Sea Org.
What do you call the folks who are up at the higher level of your church?
Sea Org members of the church.
Sea Org.
Yes.
So Emily's mother is at the very top of the ladder, and Emily had no choice but to grow up in this church. But does she really vibe with the so-called church? I don't think so.
And that is where he's wrong. I don't blame him for doing this video. there's no way for someone who doesn't know these people personally to know for sure the truth of the situation. And to his credit, he's just presenting his opinion. He's saying he doesn't think so, and he's making an argument. Everyone has a right to their opinion. But people who know these people personally and people who have walked in these shoes, I mean, most of you guys know I was also a Sea Org member. It's just why I thought, I'm not condemning this guy for doing this video. I'm just responding by putting out the truth. That's my position on it. I think the guy's being incredibly fair. I don't think the guy has an agenda. I don't think he's an apologist. He's just putting out the information. He's connecting the dots in the way that he thinks the dots connect most rationally, and I don't blame him for that. I'm just connecting them in a different way because I actually do know the truth. She is a Scientologist. Okay.
So why isn't she really vibe with the so-called church? I don't think so. So why isn't she talking about it then? Well, I think it has something to do with how this cult operates. Scientology isn't just your ordinary belief system. It's an organization notorious for harassing anyone who dares to bring them bad press.
Okay, good. I just want to comment here real quick. So the reason Emily Armstrong is not publicly talking about Scientology is because she knows Scientology is so toxic. It is basically career suicide to talk about Scientology. What's interesting is that that's the entire premise of this video, that the Linkin Park fans were so outraged that they would pick a lead singer that is a supporter of an organization that's against mental health, that is against therapy, that is against, I mean, I guess you could say psychiatry, but many therapists aren't psychiatrists. It's not just psychiatry that they're against. They're against literally any form of mental health other than, because Scientologists consider that Dianetics and Scientology is the only workable form of mental health. So they are against any form of mental health or any type of mental therapy outside of Scientology. That is why Emily Armstrong doesn't talk about Scientology. It's almost like it's so obvious. That is the reason. Now, when you look at the other true things, like, yes, Scientology destroys its critics. Yes, it goes after former members. Yes, it breaks apart families. You go, could that be a reason why she's not talking about Scientology? Yes, that could hypothetically be a reason, except she is a Scientologist and she is active. So we can throw that reason out the window. So if Emily was one of these people I said before that she was under the radar, then everything else Asa is about to explain in this video would be the reason she's not talking out. But because she's not under the radar, it's not the reason. Do you see what I mean? Also, there are other, actually, you know what? I'm going to let it play. The next point I'm going to make, I'm going to wait until after it plays a little bit more. So here we go.
You realize there's a little bit of a problem.
What's your ordinary belief system? So why isn't she talking about it then? Well, I think it has something to do with how this cult operates. Scientology isn't just your ordinary belief system. It's an organization notorious for harassing anyone who dares to bring them bad press.
You realize there's a little bit of a problem in getting people to talk critically about the Church of Scientology because, quite frankly, they're scared.
Oh, no.
Well,
no. Let me explain something to you.
Breaking free from a group that literally uses brainwashing techniques and reportedly imprisons members for looking at the leader the wrong way is no easy task. Just ask Emily's mother. Gail reportedly spent years in one of Scientology's darkest secrets, a private prison known as the Hole. That's actually a thing. On the surface, Scientology looks like this mystery religion where you gain deeper knowledge as you climb the ranks. But in reality, it's a $1 billion business run by one man. David Miscavige isn't just a leader, he's a dictator, and an erratic one. Like, just look at him. He looks like a shady Bond villain. And he has the right to punish people who violate the church's policies and rules.
Guys, I just want to say, I love this video. I love the video other than the fact that he's come to the incorrect conclusion. Everything else about this video is absolutely stellar.
And that's what happened to Emily's mom. According to Mike Rinder, a former high-ranking Scientologist, Gail Armstrong was serving time in the Hole with him. He said that Gail was confined due to internal disciplinary actions within the church, so she was sent to the Hole. Whether Emily knew about all of this is unclear, But what's obvious is that breaking free from Scientology isn't just emotionally complicated. It can be downright dangerous.
Yeah. Do you see why I love this video so much? It is so well done and presented. It's just that has the wrong premise for the video. I believe that Emily either does not know or does not believe that her mom was imprisoned in the hole by David Miscavige at the international base. Most Scientologists would not even believe you if you tried to convince them that there was such a thing as the hole. Because even to a Scientologist, that would be absolutely insane. Truly, honestly. Even to a Sea Org member, even to veteran Sea Org members, the idea that David Miscavige would have created a literal prison with bars welded to windows and guards posted outside locked doors, where hundreds of executives were being held for years in conditions that would be illegal in the American prison system. Like, this is crazy even for Scientology. So it would be very easy for Scientology to inform Emily Armstrong, like, because now that Emily's famous and on the world stage, I'm sure that the Celebrity Center's president's office has briefed her on some of the things that she's likely to encounter, information that she's likely to encounter, particularly about her own mother, and they're likely to present her with the accusations that have been made, and then because the accusations are coming from people like Mike Rinder, and then convince Emily that these are evil people dedicated to the destruction of Scientology, and they've invented all of these lies. So Scientology is likely to have presented Emily with the information and then debunked the information in a way that Emily found credible. Because truthfully, when you're a Scientologist, you'll believe anything the Scientology authorities tell you. The black and white thinking that exists in Scientology, I've used this word suppressive person. A suppressive person is what Scientology calls, well, anyone they've kicked out of Scientology. But L. Ron Hubbard has like a technical definition of what makes a suppressive person a suppressive person. And Scientologists do believe that suppressive people are just motivated by an effort to destroy anything that they think will make human beings better. That suppressive people are terrified of anybody getting better. They're terrified that if people around them or people in society improved or got better, that they pose a threat to the suppressive person. So they're actively trying to harm and destroy and suppress, and will actively fight and destroy anything that could make people better. They would try to explain to Emily how Mike Rinder became a suppressive person, and how him and his merry band of fellow SPs have coordinated and concocted all of these destructive lies to try to harm Scientology's reputation and try to prevent anyone else from getting into Scientology, because suppressive persons are, in the mind of a Scientologist, enemies of mankind. And so Scientologists really have this black and white thinking, where you can just ignore anything that's said by SPs. And the only one out there talking about the whole are SPs. So it's my belief that Emily does not believe that her mother was imprisoned by David Miscavige. And I can tell you this, Emily Armstrong has a relationship with her mother. She has a good relationship with her mother. Her mother herself would have told Emily, these are all lies. It never happened. Mike Rinder was a piece of shit. He was a liar. He was no good. He was always dead weight. We finally got rid of him. Do you see what I'm saying? So her own mother would be telling Emily that these things are not true. Now, her mother's lying because all these things were absolutely true. All right, let's keep going.
I don't know other churches that demand to destroy people's lives if they leave and speak out publicly against it.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, I realized I actually wanted to jump to a later timestamp on this. Okay, so that's 1208. We're going to go to 1240. And here we go.
But there's also another layer to this. Scientologists are notorious for cutting off family members who leave, especially if it's done publicly.
And then I was just like, how do I tell my mom? How do I tell blah? Like, how should I tell? Like, and I was like, yeah, don't even worry about it. Just live it.
So knowing this, maybe we now should be a bit more understanding of why her past may have kept her quiet.
By the way, in that clip that he just showed, she was referring to how does she tell her mother that she's gay. She wasn't referring to how do I tell my mother that I left Scientology. But as a soundbite, you could take it either way. So let's go back. Let's go back to that again.
Scientologists are notorious for cutting off family members who leave, especially if it's done publicly.
And then I was just like, how do I tell my mom? How do I tell Blah? Like, how should I tell? Like, and I was like, yeah, don't even worry about it. Just live it.
So knowing this, maybe we now should be a bit more understanding of why her past may have kept her quiet. It's understandable, but if Emily is forced to keep quiet on these issues, is she really fit to be the voice of Linkin Park? I think yes, and here's why.
Okay, good. He's basically about to make the argument for the reason she's fit to be the voice of Linkin Park is because she's not really still a Scientologist, and she actually, as a victim of this cult, and as a victim who is in her own way working her way out of this cult, she deserves to be supported by Linkin Park's fans and is appropriate as a front man or a front woman or a front person for a band such as Linkin Park. And that's where we really get to the crux of this response video, as I've already said a few times. But you guys know me, I like to repeat myself. It is a bit, it's more than just a bit of a disservice to the Linkin Park fans to try and convince them that Emily's not really in Scientology. And again, I don't blame him for doing the video. He doesn't know better. But it is why I thought this was an important response video to do. Okay, we're going to jump forward to 1413, where he literally says, it doesn't make any sense for Mike Shinoda to select Emily as the lead singer if she was still in Scientology. Guys, it's one of these things where on a surface, that statement makes sense. But if you know she's still a Scientologist, then you have to interpret all the data appropriately. You have to go, wait a second. What does it mean that Mike Shinoda selected Emily Armstrong knowing she's still a Scientologist? I promise you, Mike Shinoda knows. I promise you. So you have to interpret it the other way. Instead of, you see what I'm saying? Instead of going, well, it wouldn't make sense that she's not, if she was a Scientologist, so therefore she isn't one. You have to go, no. Since we know she is one, and I guess many of you will have to take my word for it, but that's what I'm here for. Since we know she is one, and it's almost impossible that Mike Shinoda would not know that, what does it mean now? That's what's important. Okay, here we go.
So it makes no sense that Mike Shinoda would invite Emily to join Linkin Park if she's still tied to Scientology, especially as he has the same thoughts on Scientology as most of us do.
And like a bunch of like, what do you call it? Like Scientologists to teach you how to read, but all of the books are Scientology books, which is really kind of dark.
Here's the problem. This quote, this video, this excerpt where Mike Shinoda's sort of low-key throwing shade at Scientology, it's an old fucking clip, man. It's an old clip. What has happened is that Scientology has managed to safe point Mike Shinoda and the other members of the Linkin Park band. Safe pointing is when Scientology basically makes someone a friend or friendly to Scientology without trying to convert them to Scientology. This is what Scientology does with political leaders, police departments, anyone with some influence or authority in society. It's a thing in Scientology. It is a strategy. It is a tactic. It is a thing. And it is done by the Office of Special Affairs. Guess what department of Scientology Emily Armstrong's mother worked for a very, very long time? The Office of Special Affairs. It's what Scientology exists for, is to save point. Well, because they can't succeed in getting anyone into Scientology anymore. One of the only tactics they have that works, and they're very good at it, is safe pointing people. And what better person to use to safe point Linkin Park than an extremely talented gay singer who could be their front person? Like that's some of the value that Emily has to Scientology. She can go, Scientology is not so bad. Look at me. Scientology isn't homophobic. Look at me. Scientology doesn't traffic children. Look at me. I grew up in Scientology. You can take my word for it. Emily Armstrong was absolutely in her youth one of these children who you could say was trafficked for labor by Scientology. The fact that she was a victim of that doesn't mean she isn't now also someone who's actively supporting the cult and has safe pointed Linkin Park to the cult. The evidence of this is that you don't see anyone in Linkin Park saying any negative words about Scientology now. You don't see Emily Armstrong saying any negative words about Scientology now or ever. Now, I realize you could be like, well, hold on. We've already sort of established that it would be perhaps not possible for Emily to speak out against Scientology. True. But tell me why other members of Linkin Park can't. They could. You've seen all the backlash. You've seen all the backlash from the fans on the subject of Scientology. Why haven't any members of Linkin Park who don't have to follow the rules of Scientology, why haven't any of them said anything about it? Because they've all been safe pointed by Emily Armstrong and Scientology. And that is the fact. And that is the fact that really only someone who understands the Scientology experience would be able to know and would be able to explain with confidence. That's why I don't blame this guy for doing the video. If you don't know these things and understand these things, it's easy to be like, none of it makes sense, and so therefore it's not true. It is true, and we have to keep that in mind. Okay, let's keep going.
But don't worry, you don't just have to rely on Mike's judgment to protect the band's legacy. There are some evidence Emily is on the same page too. Her album, Ain't It Tragic, is full of raw introspection of her own feelings, battling with addiction, self-worth, and yep, mental health. In the album, she's not just singing about...
Okay, so let's take a look. Let's use this as an example. A Scientologist singing a song with a lyric that they wrote called Depression, Kill Me. Okay. Scientologists don't believe in psychiatry, psychology, or any other form of treatment other than Scientology. They also don't believe that, but they believe in depression. They just don't believe depression is caused by anything that you can fix with something other than Scientology. They think depression, see, they wouldn't call it depression as a clinical thing, as an official thing. They might say, yes, you feel depressed, but it's caused by the engrams in your reactive mind, or it's caused by misunderstood words, or it's caused by what Tom Cruise talked about on the Matt Lauer show, like vitamins, exercise. Like a Scientologist writing a song about depression is not evidence that they're not a Scientologist. And I can understand how someone might be confused about something like this. But do you see what I mean? It's not that Scientologists, of course, understand that people experience something that a psychiatrist would call depression, and then a Scientologist would say, and then they would give you a drug to fix it. Scientologists know that people experience these feelings. Scientologists experience these feelings. They just deal with it and are only allowed to deal with it through Scientology procedures. Okay.
About heartache. She's talking about real pain. In 2018, she dropped a track with Dead Sara, An American.
Okay, so there's a lyric in a Dead Sara song called I Had to Sweat Off Chemicals in a Bubble Bath. This is just, for me, a perfect example of, if you already have in your mind this vision of what you think the truth is, you're going to look at a whole bunch of data, and all you're going to see is data points that confirm for you what you already think is the truth. And if you didn't know that this whole band was made up of people who are actually still currently active, believing Scientologists, then you could look through the lyrics and be like, oh my God, a Scientologist would never say this. A Scientologist would never say this. And you go, no, you have to look at it the other way around. They are Scientologists and they are saying it. So what does that mean? So obviously he's about to say that this lyric refers to Scientology's purification rundown, where you sweat toxins out of your body in a sauna program. Well, okay. Just because Scientology has a detox program that uses a sauna where you sweat out toxins doesn't mean this lyric is calling out Scientology. If she wanted to call out Scientology, she could say, I had to sweat off chemicals in a sauna. Instead, she says, I had to sweat off chemicals in a bubble bath. I got news for you. Scientology's purification rundown doesn't involve any bubble baths. So it's like, you can see, you know, if you're looking for faces, you can look at Mars and see faces and imagine alien civilizations on Mars. But if you're not looking for human faces, you go, it's probably something else. All right, let's keep going. The all-American girl, lesbo, gay, maniac. And I go, okay, so if you know Scientology is homophobic and she's calling herself a lesbo, gay maniac, you might go, oh my God, it's a secret message. She's leaving Scientology. And you go, no, guys, John Travolta is gay. John Travolta is gay, gay, gay. He's been a dedicated Scientologist for like 40 fucking years. I just gave you the examples of Brooke Daniels and Catherine Bell. Gay, 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 gay. Very dedicated Scientologists. There's even a woman I was in the Sea Org with. I think her name was Shoshone Posner. I don't know her maiden name, but her married name, because she was married to a man, was Shoshone Posner. She was married to Judd Posner. And she was a high-level Sea Org member. She went on some project to Austin, Texas, where there's a Scientology org. While on project there, she met a woman Scientologist, and they fell in love. And Shoshone went back to Los Angeles, and she said, I'm leaving the Sea Org, and I'm moving to Austin, and I'm going to be a gay Scientologist in Austin. Guess what? She is. She's a gay Scientologist in Austin. Now, they'll never let her do her confidential upper OT levels because she's gay, and that's against the rules. It might sound like I'm trying to be like Scientology's gay friendly. They're not. It's crazy to be a gay Scientologist. Scientology thinks being gay is wrong and bad and aberrated, but it doesn't mean they don't let you be a Scientologist. You see, Scientology wants your money. They want your money to fix you. Yeah, it's a weird, you have to be a weird self-hating person to be a gay Scientologist. But you can be a gay Scientologist. And Emily Armstrong is one of them. All right, let's keep going.
And these lyrics right here is basically an FU to Scientology.
They're not. They're not an FU to Scientology. They're just lyrics to a song informed by her life experience that has nothing to do with saying FU to Scientology. And this is the one part where I felt like he sort of crossed the line in the video from just giving what is an understandable opinion to making a definitive statement that is simply false. You know, I'm not throwing any shade at him, but this is the one time in the video that I said, no, that was, you shouldn't have said that because you don't know that to be true. And it's not true.
Let me explain. She mentions sweating off chemicals in a bubble bath. This is a specific reference to Scientology's purification rundown, the controversial detox program that led to people literally die while trying to cleanse their souls.
The purification rundown actually opens the way to spiritual progress.
So by doing this program, you're able to, cleanse your body and be able to have spiritual gains.
And then she throws in this line about practicing what you preach.
By the way, I just want to say every single Scientologist has done the purification rundown. Some many times. It's pseudoscience. It's bullshit. Obviously, spending 5 hours a day in a sauna for weeks on end can have negative health consequences. It doesn't actually do what L. Ron Hubbard says it does. It doesn't work the way L. Ron Hubbard says it does. But it's literally the first thing every Scientologist does as what they call a major action on their bridge to total freedom. There was something else that I wanted to say there, but I totally forgot what it was. So let's just keep going.
It's a direct shot because Scientology has long had a major problem with anyone who isn't straight.
The Church of Scientology is homophobic.
Oh, by the way, I should point out. I wanted to respond to some people who were saying, I can see in the comments section people taking issue with the idea that you can be a gay Scientologist. You literally can be, but it doesn't mean people like it. Okay. I'm in touch with many under the radar Scientologists right now, public and staff and Sea Org. And of the people I am in touch with, more than one of them are gay. And I'm telling you from firsthand personal knowledge, Scientology has even changed its policies to this extent. You are now allowed to be a Scientology staff member if you're gay. You cannot be a Sea Org member if you're gay, but you can be a staff member. And yes, I'm not going to give a lot of details because there's no point. But I guess that comes back to what I said about sometimes the purpose of this channel is just to be able to put out information that I am vouching for without having to be able to dox my sources. Because it's true. Scientology is homophobic, but it doesn't mean you're not allowed to be a Scientologist if you are gay. Okay.
The founder called it a dangerous mental illness.
Oh, that was the other thing I wanted to say. L. Ron Hubbard's own son was gay. And he was a Sea Org member. And he was one of the highest trained auditors you could possibly be. And everyone knew he was gay. But they sort of weren't allowed to talk about it. And that son eventually took his own life. But he was gay. L. Ron Hubbard knew he was gay. He was allowed to continue to be in the Sea Org. He was allowed to continue to be an auditor. But what he wasn't allowed to do was to be proud of who he was. Because Scientology does, despite everything I'm saying of being allowed to be a gay Scientologist, does think being gay is bad and wrong. But they would also say, but that's why you need Scientology, so that we can fix that about you. All right, let's keep going.
But Emily has been openly gay since 2016. And there's more. In 2024, Linkin Park released the first album together with Emily Armstrong. And in the song Casualty, she's singing, if this is true, we've come full circle.
Now, guys, this is what I call, what's the word? Confirmation bias. These are some of the most generic lyrics I could possibly imagine. Let me out, set me free. I know all the secrets you keep. It does not get more generic than that. Seizing upon lyrics like this as evidence that it's an F you to Scientology, or that she's out of Scientology, or it's a secret coded message, this is getting into conspiracy territory here. So, yeah.
If this is true, we've come full circle.
That's a big if. The word if there is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence.
As fans, we were afraid that Emily represented the group that undermined the mental health discussion. Now Emily is hinting she's ready to share her own painful experiences of her past, just as Chester did 20 years ago.
Yeah, this is where I start to get like a little pissed off. Let's just listen to this. I just want to listen to this one more time.
If this is true, we've come full circle. As fans, we were afraid that Emily represented the group that undermined the mental health discussion. Now Emily is hinting she's ready to share her own painful experiences of her past, just as Chester did 20 years ago.
See, that's like literally fucking not okay that he said that. I mean, it's just, that's the part of the video that I was like, okay, now I'm kind of getting a little pissed off. Because now what the guy's doing, and I'm sorry, I still like the guy. I like the presenter. I like the quality of the video. I understand it's like you want something to be true. You connect the dots, you make it true. But you're literally at this point trying to put Emily Armstrong into the same category as Chester Bennington. And the Linkin Park fans really do need to understand that at this point, Emily Armstrong is being used as a tool, as an agent of Scientology, to try and create the impression that Scientology really is okay with being gay, and it really is okay with the messages and the themes that the band has historically supported. And it's just like, you know, I guess another example that I want to use, let's go back to Tom Cruise. When Tom Cruise was on Matt Lauer, what was it that he was most vocally objecting to? The over-drugging of children. But the over-drugging of children is not just something Scientologists object to. There's a ton of people in society that object to what I believe is a very real problem, the over-drugging of children. This is a little trick that Tom Cruise plays, though. because he's only talking about the parts of his beliefs about psychiatry that he knows will get broad public support. But he's not being honest. He's not being honest that that's not his problem with psychiatry. His problem with psychiatry is everything. He doesn't think anyone anywhere should ever see a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a therapist, a mental health counselor, a guidance counselor, a social worker, anything, anytime, for any reason. But he doesn't say that because he knows people will go, who the fuck are you to say something like that? Oh, it's because you're a crazy Scientologist. Oh, tell me, Tom, what should everyone do? Since nobody should ever get any mental health therapy, what is it everyone should do, Tom? Oh, right. Everyone should do Scientology. Thank you, Tom. Take a hike. Go get fucked. That's how people would respond to that. So he only talks about the one thing that will get broad public support, the overdrugging of children. So that's kind of, in my opinion, the function Emily is now serving in this capacity. That's why she's not talking about Scientology. It's not because she's afraid of it. It's because she is one. She's a believer and she's a supporter. And that's what the Linkin Park fans really need to know. Okay, we're almost done here.
Does Chester into your mind in moments like this? Do you think about when you're trying to sing these songs and do what's right for the band? Like, how does he manifest in this?
I would love to do him proud, you know?
In my opinion, Linkin Park with Emily in the mix might just be about to do what they've always done. Start important conversations that can help make the world a little bit better. Because when it comes to fighting for mental health and fighting for the truth, they've never been afraid to go all the way.
So it's wishful thinking, and I wish it were true. But saying that having Emily Armstrong, a dedicated hardcore Scientologist, as the lead singer of Linkin Park, means that they are about to start having some really important, valuable, and tough conversations about mental health is like saying that's what Tom Cruise was trying to do, when it's just not true. So, if entertainment journalists or YouTubers or interviewers or anyone who's able to interview members of the band, they should put this to the test. Ask about Scientology. Because if Emily was just a former child victim and now a reluctant, she's between a rock and a hard place. If she speaks out, they'll destroy her life. They'll disconnect her from her mom. Guys, the evidence is contrary to that. There are celebrities who have been born and raised in Scientology who have left and have said they are not Scientologists and have had no repercussions of any kind. Beck, the famous musician Beck, much more famous than Emily Armstrong. Beck was born and raised in Scientology. His father is David Campbell. I forget his mom's name. She's got some funny, crazy name. Beck was born and raised in Scientology. Last year or 1 or 2 years ago, he made a public statement that he's not a Scientologist. And he skirted around the rules a little bit by saying, I was never really, it was always my parents' thing. I grew up around it, but I was never really a Scientologist, and I'm not one today. He said that publicly. He did not lose his family members. He did not get attacked. Okay. Jason Lee. Now, Jason Lee wasn't born in Scientology, but he was in it for a very long time. He got in, I think, maybe in late teens, early 20s. Jason Lee was a very well-known Scientologist. That's how he got the role with Tom Cruise. And was it Magnolia? What was the movie? Jason Lee did a movie with Tom Cruise. Jason Lee has left Scientology and has publicly said it. And his Scientologist friends are still allowed to associate with him, like Ethan Suplee. Laura Prepon, the star, one of the stars of that 70s show, and the star of Orange is the New Black. Laura Prepon joined Scientology when she was dating Danny Masterson's brother, Chris Masterson. She was a Scientologist for a ton of years. She came out recently and said she is no longer a Scientologist. Didn't ruin her career. Didn't lose everyone in her life. So we have to stop making excuses for Emily Armstrong and pretending she is just some unwilling, reluctant participant in Scientology or child victim who's, being gagged and silenced by Scientology's destructive policies. It's not true. And sure, people could try to make circumstantial evidence to prove that it's not true, but that's not where I'm coming from in this video. I know it's not true. I've seen the evidence that Chris Farmer is auditing Emily Armstrong. And when we're talking about a Scientologist getting auditing from a field auditor, here's one of the other reasons why that's particularly important. That's a choice. That is a choice. You are paying top dollar, extra money to have this person come and audit you in the privacy of your own home. Sometimes, you know, because Chris has a number of celebrity Scientology clients. Sometimes Chris will go on tour with people. Chris Farmer audits Skrillex. People don't know that Skrillex is a Scientologist. Skrillex was born and raised in Scientology. He's like an EDM star. Skrillex also gets his Scientology auditing from Chris Farmer. Stop trying to trick Linkin Park fans into thinking that Emily is secretly out of Scientology. Stop saying that because she's gay, she's not a Scientologist. Stop saying this obscure lyric in one song of Dead Sara was a secret message. No, guys, no. Emily Armstrong's a Scientologist. What does it mean that Linkin Park is okay with that? What does it mean? So just, you know, the next time someone can interview, not just Emily Armstrong, but anyone in the band, ask them about Scientology. I promise you, they will not say one negative word. They've been safe pointed, and Emily's a diehard member. That's the reason. Okay, guys. I think I actually have another video that I want to do this evening. Thank you for hanging out with me for this one, and I'll see you guys soon. My mouse is too slow. Here we go.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right